Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:30, and I'm going to call to order the September 13, 2024 meeting of the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Board of Directors. With that, ask everyone to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to truncate the general session agenda for the moment so that we can move to closed session. Before we do that, I guess first I need to invite any public comment on the matters that were noticed for closed session, specifically the litigation matters. Seeing no movement and hearing no voices, we'll move on then to the executive officer's comments.
Thanks, Chair West. I'd like to make some introductions. We have a lot of new faces in the GMA and in the agency, so I'm going to start with Greg Strakalus, the new public agency director. Sorry, Greg Strakalus is our new public agency director. He started with us in July. Next to him is Jeff Palmer, the new Watershed Protection District director. He's been with the agency for a few months now. And then moving on, Raya Noor is an engineer that is going to be working directly with the agency. She's going to be focusing on the projects that will be improving the sustainability in Fox Canyon. And behind her are Aaron Ware and Cynthia Rodriguez, two admin assistants who are going to be working with customer service and statements, who are really going to help us improve our customer service. So we are making...
Welcome. We look forward to working with you. Okay, with that, we are going to recess the general session. Oh, I'm sorry, let's do that first. Why don't we do the roll call first? Thank you.
Chair West.
Yes.
Director Long. Yes. Director Mohar.
Here.
Director Perrella.
Yes.
Director Borchert.
Here.
All right, thank you. With that, we're going to recess to closed session to return as soon as possible. Thank you.
So we'll do the executive and the board after. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, wait, go ahead, go, wait. It's a long closed session. Some things are more urgent than others, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, it is 2:49. We are returned from closed session and can report no action was taken that requires reporting. We will now go ahead and proceed with the regular agenda. We've been through the roll call. Let me ask agenda review.
No changes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to public comments. Anybody wishing to address the board on matters not otherwise on today's agenda is welcome to come forward now. I don't see any movement, so we'll go to board member comments. Yes?
I wanted to speak with fellow directors for a minute here. And that is to let you all know that this is going to be my last meeting as the seat in the agricultural position for director at Fox Canyon. I've been here since 2006. It's about 18 years. I think the only person in this room who's been here longer is perhaps my cousin over there in the corner. And he's what, been here since 1940 or something?
I was born in 48.
Effective today, or this will be my last meeting, and my duly appointed alternate, Michael Cravioto, will continue in my place as director, and I'll assume the alternate position. I'd encourage you all to get to know Michael. I've been impressed with his background in finance and found him to be a capable, even-tempered, and clear-thinking guy. I believe he'll serve the agency well and be an effective advocate for agriculture on groundwater issues. In reflecting back on my time here, I'm appreciative of the opportunity I've had to try and make a difference. I've tried to support agriculture in my decisions here, but more importantly, I've tried to do what was fair and right for the basins. There have been large challenges and difficult times that I didn't count on when I agreed to take this position. I've learned an immeasurable amount of things during my time on this board about the hydrology of our area, public policy making, collaborating with folks that farmers don't normally typically agree with, which has opened my mind to the challenges that others in our water community face. In short, this experience has greatly enhanced my own professional and personal growth, and for that I'm grateful. In closing, I wanted to thank my many colleagues that I've come to know in the water community, and in particular this current group of directors and staff. I've appreciated our collaboration on ways to improve the effectiveness of this agency, and your general desire to protect and improve upon the groundwater resources while balancing the needs of stakeholders for water reliability and economic sustainability. There are still many challenges ahead for this agency as it strives to be more efficient in its management roles of our basins, to meet the demands of SGMA, navigate adjudications, just to name a few. Because I'm a farmer and because groundwater is my family's only water source, really the lifeblood of our sixth-generation farming business, you'll likely continue to see me at GMA meetings, so you won't be entirely rid of me yet. Good luck to you all as you continue trying to do the right thing for the basins. Thank you for allowing me this time to talk to you.
Thank you, David. I Certainly your voice on this board will be missed. In my time, there hasn't been a more consistent voice of reason than yours. And don't be surprised if various among the board members persist in seeking out your counsel and advice. We can't thank you enough.
Can I ask a question just to make sure we are clear with procedures? And Dave, this isn't for me to prolong your serving on the board. But does your group need to submit a letter or an email to our board stating that the switch of alternate and regular needs to be done?
My understanding is that's underway.
Wonderful.
I thought it was going to occur already. I don't know if it's been received yet. Arnie? Okay.
So if you could follow up on that,
I
just
will.
to we have it, just to make sure the procedural, but I just really
There's
want
going
to.
to be a letter by Farm Bureau and VCAA, just
Okay.
notifying of the switch.
Okay, thank you. And I just really appreciate your service for the longevity of it and also your history and knowledge of it. So if we do reach out, please maybe answer our calls. Thank you
course,
so much.
always.
Thank you for your service. And you're right, we are cousins, we're second cousins, for the people that don't know. My grandmother was a board trooper, my grandfather obviously was a martyr. So we go to the board trooper in Malhart and Friedrich lineage because of the daughters that were married way back then. You've been helpful, clear in your issues, and you forced us all to think beyond where we were to come to, I think, a better, reasonable decision. So it's been a pleasure. And someday you'll have to be the alternate to the alternate. We'll see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the nice thoughts.
David, thank you very much for your service. I can't speak for Tony, but I'm sure if he was here, he'd be much more eloquent than I could be. I appreciate your service. Having worked with you in the past, I know that you're rational. You do not fly off the handle. You do a good job representing agriculture. Thanks for your service.
Thank you, Bert.
Any other board member comments? If not, moving on then to item number 11 on the regular agenda, reimbursement of legal expenses incurred by the agency for Las Posas Valley Watermaster Rules Appeal.
All right. Thank you, Chair West. Arnie Anselm, Interim Executive Officer. I do have a PowerPoint presentation on this.
For Las Posas Valley Watermaster Rules Appeal.
All right. Thank you, Chair West. Arnie Anselm, Interim Executive Officer. I do have a PowerPoint presentation.
Why are we hearing a recorded delay or something?
Arnie doesn't use swear words.
Thank you, Chair West. Arnie Anselm, Interim Executive Officer. I do have a PowerPoint presentation.
Why are we hearing a recorded delay or something?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and see what happens. Okay, so this item for discussion has been back and forth between the fiscal committee and your board a couple times now. And this has to do with an appeal filed and the funding of that appeal being paid for by the agency or by the water master or by shared by both. Okay, so this item for discussion has been back and forth between the fiscal committee and your board a couple times now. And this has to do with an appeal filed and the funding of that appeal being.
Am I okay just speaking without using the
paid for by
microphone?
the agency
We
or
don't
by
have
the
a
water
Zoom
master or
requirement?
by shared by Okay, both.
so
this item for discussion
has
has
won't
been
be
back and
recorded.
forth between the fiscal
Can
committee
you
and your
mute?
board.
There.
Is it just this mic? No, I heard a bit of that. Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right. So again, this has been back and forth between the fiscal committee and your board a couple times for discussion. Today, I would like to have a decision made. Some background: in July of 2023, the judgment was entered for the Las Posas Valley adjudication, and it appointed the agency as the water master to implement the judgment. That same month, an appeal was requested, appeal and a request for stay of the judgment was filed by your agency, a decision by your board. The judgment authorizes and requires the water master to take management actions to ensure the optimization and sustainability of the basin and set deadlines for actions. At that time, there were no funds available for the LPV water master activities until the first basin assessments were paid. That was levied in December. The first checks rolled in around April, and we set up a fund. And so there was no account to pay any bills for the LPV water master until that time. So their expenses for the appeal and the request for stay were accrued before there was money dedicated to the LPV water master to fund it. Those expenses were for agency and outside counsel. In that appeal, it's estimated to be about $400,000. There was not an accounting system like we have now to provide an exact cost there, but it's an estimate of what our counsel and outside counsel cost for that appeal. It does not include any counsel time advising staff or your board on the interpretation of the LPV judgment and implementing that, or defending the water master implementation of the judgment. So the impact of the decision here, whether it's paid by the agency, paid by the LPV water master, or split, is shown here on this chart. And these are the draft budget numbers, which will be coming to your board on September 25th. It's $400,000, and so the three scenarios are completely paid by the agency, split, or completely paid by the water master. The agency line item, you can see it's just clean $200,000 difference between each one. So the water master budget, it's a little different because there's a 10% contingency included. So that changes the value of each one. And the real impact here is also to the LPV water master basin assessment changes because that is set by the budget. So the fiscal committee discussed this, and their recommendation that that it be split equally between the LPV water master and the agency. And your decision today will feed into the budgets that we bring back on September 25th. And I will say the LPV PAC has commented on that, and I believe the letter is in the board item.
So at the fiscal committee, we discussed this in this boardroom once before, but at the fiscal committee, Tony and I wrestled with this issue, listened to quite a bit of commentary, analyzed the various issues that the expenses tackled, some of which were discreetly water master appropriate, some of them seemed to be more GMA-centric, and at the end of the day, decided the fairest resolution was to split that $400,000 with $200,000 staying on the GMA budget side and $200,000 being allocated to the water master budget side, not necessarily a scientific allocation, but Solomonic in its recommendation.
So what is I see the blocks. So you're proposing that the water master basin assessment per acre foot is $64.58.
Correct.
That's the split. And then the water master quarterly basin assessment per acre foot is $16.14.
Correct.
So
Guidance was given to have those assessments quarterly. And those assessments are unlike the billing under Fox Canyon. It's by allocation, not by amount pumped. So we will know those. A water rights holder will know what they owe immediately.
And just to be clear, that's not an additional, it's not the 68 and 14.
Yeah.
So
It's-
that's
it's
an annual, the 64 is an annual fee.
And the 14 is
Paid at-
if it's applied quarterly.
Okay. So today, we're essentially approving, the bottom number, 1614. It will mathematically equal on an annualized basis 64.58. So are you asking for approval on both those numbers or just quarterly?
That's how it will affect the draft budget, which I'm going to bring on September 25th. And that draft budget has also been reviewed by the PAC already.
Okay, so tell me what the motion is to approve the
The
column.
allocation, the allocation of
allocation.
200 apiece.
Okay, the split reimbursement column is what we're approving.
Yes.
Okay,
That
I'll
was
so,
fiscal committee's recommendation. Okay.
I'll move. Also move.
Can I get a little more clarification, please? So this 6458 under split reimbursement, that's what we charged already, right?
It's very close to what the assessment, the initial assessment that was adopted in December was about $64.
Right.
This is based on the draft budget for this year, this fiscal year, which has yet to be adopted by your board.
So you're,
But to be clear, the original assessment adopted by the board was $64. We assessed half of that and waived the second half. So it was only 32. This is next year's budget.
thank you for that. But going forward, we're looking at a $64 an acre foot charge for the next coming water year.
Correct, starting October 1st.
Pay it on a quarterly basis at a rate of 1614.
But that's not the question here at hand. The question here at hand is whether to divide the
Yes.
400,000 in legal expenses split between agency and the water master.
Correct.
Let me open up and ask if there's any questions or comments from the public, since I see Rob making his way to the podium.
Thank you, Chair West, members of the board, and thank you, Arnie, for the presentation. I'll try to keep my mouth pointed at the microphone and not listen for my echo. And one more thing, I'm sorry for the hat, but the hair underneath looks just awful right now, so I'm not going to take it off for your benefit.
Wow.
Look, I'm here as vice chair of the PAC, and would like to be available to you for your questions. But you've seen the PAC letter. We have revisited this topic over the last month since May, when we first discussed it and issued our recommendation to the water master. And we have not changed our official position, which is that none of the legal fees associated with the appeal should be charged to the water master. I can take questions from wearing my PAC hat, but I also would like to, I guess, give my own perspective, which is along those lines, but may be willing to make a small compromise, which is that legal fees incurred helping to implement the water master rules, I can personally understand why those would be borne from the water master account and borne by Las Postas users. But I am aligned with the PAC that it was the agency that appealed the judgment, and all legal fees associated with that were not a decision by the water master, which is not itself a party to the judgment. It is not itself an entity that can bring a case to the court. It is an arm of the court. The GMA, the agency, is the party. And so to shift that legal responsibility to a subset of users, just because there's now an account, just doesn't feel legally viable. And that's one issue. The second is I don't understand how we're still using $400,000 as this big, round, ambiguous number that's never had any additional detail. And I appreciate there was not an accounting system in place, but we know what outside counsel's legal fees were. At the very least, I would have expected you to have a breakdown of in-house counsel expenses and outside fees from Stoll Reeves. And I can only imagine that every one of those bills came with some kind of itemization of what the work was being done on. So for this to still be just this big round $400,000 feels pretty inexcusable. I'm also really confused by Arnie's comments just now, because he said that it was not for efforts made for interpretation and implementation or for defending the Water Master's implementation, and yet the memorandum to your board says exactly the opposite. And I will read for your benefit. It says, legal expenses incurred since the judgment include agency counsel time advising staff and your board on interpretation and implementation of the judgment and defending the Water Master's implementation of the judgment against various parties. In addition, both agency and outside counsel expenses were incurred for representing the agency in the LPV Water Master Rules Appeal. So the PAC has taken the position at one end saying none of this $400,000 should be charged to the Water Master, and that is a simple allocation approach for sake of setting the Water Master assessment for this coming year. But in terms of actually allocating the true legal expenses, my personal recommendation is to dig just a little bit deeper, figure out how much of it pertained to implementing and understanding the judgment for the Water Master, which I can understand is a real expense of, it should be borne by the Water Master and its ratepayers, but that the balance of it, the appeal of that was an agency decision. And if we can't get that level of detail from council or from the billing department, then maybe it's a public records request that will help daylight that for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Can
One
I-
second, Rob,
Go ahead.
question?
No, I actually was going to ask it from Counselor Arnie on
Never mind.
clarification. But thank you. I mean, hang tight, you never know. I appreciate this. So this is in regards to a budget, so it's an estimation, I believe it is? Or is this funding that we've already spent? Could someone clarify that?
It's funding that's been expended.
Okay,
These were fees paid to special counsel for the
That's
just ended fiscal year.
okay, so this round number of 200 or 4,000 was already spent. So we do have actuals for that information. I am concerned just on the fact that it is the question of the actual, and that it states in here that an exact accounting is unavailable as there is no system in place at this time. But I mean, I know council always does every 15 minutes, so it's hard to say we don't have any actual information. Is there any
Well-
clarity or dig deeper, or is this just an estimate? Can we get?
It is an estimate or approximation of the total fees paid for the fiscal year to outside counsel. What I would say is no analysis has been done to segregate costs related to the appeal versus other costs for time spent on non-appeal matters. And if I understood it correctly, the 50-50 split was, part of the reason for that was to avoid having to go through a year's worth of invoices and do a line-by-line allocation of which are chargeable to the appeal and which are not.
Okay, so then the decision of the 400 was based on the date? Or how was that information based on? What percentage was spent? I'm just trying to get some more information versus just a nominal value.
Well, those were fees incurred after entry of judgment. And while appeals were being filed and further post-judgment actions were being taken by outside counsel.
Okay, so it was based, the number that's before us is based on the date that the appeal went through and the billing that we received until it was now.
Well, I think until the June 30th of this year,
Okay.
correct?
Okay,
Into the fiscal year.
okay, so that's good information. At least there's some more detail with that versus we
And
just
I'll-
charged you 5% of the total bill.
And also, perhaps coincidentally, we dismissed our appeal in early July. So at that point, no further costs were being expended on the appeal.
Okay, so it's the expenditures between those dates.
Correct.
Thank you.
So there is a motion to approve the 50-50 allocation, allocating $200,000 to the GMA budget, $200,000 to the Water Master budget. Is there a second?
I'll second this, but for discussion purposes.
There's a
And I'd
motion
like
and
to
a
start,
second.
I'd like to
Have a-
start the discussion.
Go ahead.
The issue, the gentleman that came up and wanted the data, exactly how the legal went. I can't imagine any of us going to our auto repair and getting a check, giving them a check, and they said, well, it's around $400. We'd want an idea of what it was. That's just plain old common sense. And hopefully we're all born with some common sense. But as one member of the board who voted on the appeal and the actions why that was taken, and the appeal, I've asked Arnie and I've asked Alberto, the decision for the appeal was reported out to the public, correct?
Correct.
And what was that vote?
The vote was 3 in favor, 1 against, and 1 recusal.
Correct. And I was one who voted in favor of the appeal. And the reason for the appeal was to protect the agency of which the LPV was part of it. That's why it was, and we lost. I think that needs to be made public. As I mentioned, I'm seconding this for discussion purposes. We'll have a vote, but I do think that it leaves a very sour taste, and I'm only here because Tony, the normal representative for this, Mr. Tremblay, is away for other options, other business, required business. I sat through all of the fiscal policy meetings where this was discussed, very thoroughly discussed. It wasn't kicked under the can down the road. They talked about it quite extensively. But the gentleman that came up and asked a question for a little more detail, I think that is a very valid question. I would ask you that question if you gave me a bill. And I think it deserves an answer. My understanding on the 50/50 was it would be the least potentially expensive thing to the district, because this could also end up in litigation. And 50/50, half of 400 is 200 grand. We can drop $200,000 in legal fees without batting an eye. And I think that is part of what was going on with respect to 50/50. Those are my comments, and that was my addition to this item. And I want to thank Arnie and Alberta for taking my calls and giving them a heads up I was going to be asking these questions.
All right, if there's nothing further, there's a motion and a second. We need a roll call.
Chair Long,
Yes,
Chair West,
Yes.
Director Long,
sorry. Yes, I was chair only on Tuesday board meeting.
Director Mulhart,
Yes.
Director Perella,
Yes.
Director Borchard.
Recuse.
All right, moving on then to item number 12, the appointment of the Ventura Waterworks representative to the PAC.
Good afternoon, Chair West, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kathy Jones, Staff Service Specialist for Fox Canyon. I've been with Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency for going on 8 years now. I'm generally more behind the scenes and working with groundwater extraction reporting operations. But today I'm here to present agenda item number 12, which is the Ventura County Waterworks District numbers 1 and 19, nomination for appointment of replacement representative to the Policy Advisory Committee under the Las Posas Valley Basin Adjudication Judgment. Las Posas Valley Basin is an adjudicated basin. The adjudication judgment defines the Policy Advisory Committee as a primary advisory body to the Las Posas Valley Water Master on policy-related matters of a non-technical nature. The judgment defines the PAC of 11 members. 5 members are basin-wide representatives, and 6 representatives from east and west management areas. The 5 basin-wide representatives are comprised of a Zone Mutual Water Company, Cayugas Municipal Water District, Ventura County Waterworks District numbers 1 and 19, commercial, and the non-voting member, Las Posas Valley Water Master. Your board will recall that PAC members were initially appointed at the Water Master Board special meeting on November 17th of last year. The judgment states that members will serve until resignation is given or replaced pursuant to the judgment. Vacancies are filled by vote from respective landowner constituency groups or pursuant to internal governance processes for basin-wide representatives. The Water Master was notified in writing on August 16th of the Ventura County Waterworks District numbers 1 and 19 replacement nomination to the PAC, Mr. David Fleisch, Public Works Assistant Agency Director. The judgment states that the Water Master shall appoint or decline a nomination within 60 days and may only decline nominee for cause. At this time, staff finds no cause for declining appointment of the Waterworks PAC nominee and therefore recommends your board appoint Mr. Fleisch as the Ventura County Waterworks District number 1 and 19 replacement representative to the Las Posas Valley Policy Advisory Committee. This concludes my presentation. I'm now available for any questions.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions from the board?
One question. Is Mr. Fleiss available to answer any questions, or?
He is not here at this time, but he is an excellent choice, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
And I'll make a motion to approve when the time being.
Any questions from the public on this item or comments? Hearing none now. Is there a motion?
Yes, please. I nominate. He's an excellent person to represent us.
And second,
I'll second that motion.
there's a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call, please.
Chair West,
Yes.
Director Long,
Yes.
Director Mulhart,
Yes.
Director Perillo,
Yes.
Director Borchard.
Yes.
All right, moving on then to item number 13, which is a consideration of the Policy Advisory Committee recommendation to appoint Tony Morgan to serve as PAC Administrator.
Chair West Board, Arnie Anselm again. No PowerPoint presentation for this item. This is consideration to provide, to appoint Tony Morgan of Daniel B. Stevenson as the PAC Administrator, and that doing so has been recommended by the PAC, and also they requested $170,000 to fund the position. That is in the draft budget that has been approved by the Fiscal Committee that will be coming to your board on September 25th. Let's see. So the PAC may appoint a PAC administrator according to the judgment responsible for organizing PAC meetings, preparing PAC meeting agendas, and taking and preparing PAC meeting minutes. The Water Master must consent to the PAC's appointment in the absence of cause. So without cause, I recommend approving Tony Morgan as the PAC administrator.
What is the effective date of the appointment? Beginning of the new budget or effective immediately? What is the effective date?
We would need a separate contract with them, so we'd bring back a contract on the 25th with the budget.
Okay, and then it would be effective that, and we have the funding to pay this at that point in time, or is it?
With the approved budget.
Okay, we'll do all that in one motion.
Yes.
All right.
A couple of things. I want to, in looking at this, and by the way, I've known Tony a long time, worked with him before, he's a good guy. But I did see some things in the letter from the PAC chair that I wanted to make very clear as we consider this item. In Mr. Pritchard's letter, he listed a series of duties for the PAC administrator, a couple of which it appears to me are inappropriate. And I want to make it clear that in considering this, one of the things, for example, is that in Ian's view at least, the PAC administrator was to address technical issues or questions from the PAC. The judgment is very clear that the TAC gets its assignments and is tasked exclusively by the water master. And that's the only work that the water master will pay for. The judgment was, the terms were negotiated and specific so that PAC was not free to assign tasks to TAC. All those assignments come from the water master and the water master only. I had hoped that maybe Tony would be here so I could confirm with him that that's his understanding, but I can tell you that if he's appointed and he wants to get paid, that's the process. Ah, okay. Tony, can you chime in? Is that, I want to make sure that that's your understanding of the responsibilities, I guess the role of the TAC relative to the water master as well. Well, his name is there, but I don't see or hear him, so I guess that's a discussion that he and I can have separately and just to confirm the way the process will work. So I guess with that, any other questions or comments from the board? Yes?
Yes, okay, so I understand we have contract agreements with each of the TAC members, is that correct?
That is correct, but it doesn't include scope for the administrator.
Okay, so it needs, is there another contract that we have to do, or can we amend the contract we have currently?
I'm going to work that out with legal. I think we can amend, but there was a discussion of a need to keep them separate, so.
Okay, it should, to me, it sounds very easy process, just admit it, just appoint him, which is great, and I think Tony Morgan's awesome, and he will provide some good assistance as the administrator, but I wanted to make sure people understood that was a process that we just have to figure that out, and hopefully it'll be done in a really timely basis. Council, any question or comment on that?
I would recommend a separate agreement that would allow for termination of that agreement, which wouldn't affect his work as a member of the TAC.
Okay, so in the case that he was no longer a TAC member, then the other contract would make sure that he could still be the PAC administrator?
Correct.
Okay, so that's why you have to have two of them? Okay. And then the second question I had was really, I guess, in agreeing of what the PAC administrator duties are. Are they reviewing what the TAC information is, and the TAC is reviewing the information from the water master? Does that make sense? Versus coming up with all sorts of different other things to work on. I think from Mr. West's point,
Yeah,
that's what
the
Chair's
PAC
point.
The PAC administrator should be limited to just that and the policy side that the PAC is focused on.
Okay, and the policy side is usually derived by the technical information, which is coming from the TAC that is reviewing the information that came from the water master. Is that correct?
And direction from the water master.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just making sure so that we understand what is all there versus other stuff. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I hate to bring up another point, because I think Tony will do a great job. In the PAC letter, I see they're calculating the 170,000 a year on the 317 for the administrator and 125 an hour for the PAC admin assistant. Who's paying the admin assistant?
That would come out of the water master budget. So it would be the LPV water master.
Part of the 170?
Oh, who's paying? Do we have a contract in place? What's the mechanism?
We got to talking about contracts, so
Yeah,
it made me think.
I don't have an answer for you
Or
right
is it,
now.
The way I read the letter, that it was a combined cost of $170,000 was what
Right.
was being estimated.
right? And so is there just one contact for the administrator? The administrator handles the paying of the assistant himself? Is that how that's going to work, or? Yes, I'm seeing a thumbs up from Mr. Guthrie.
Okay.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, so yeah, so it'd be Carolyn Wesley as the administrator assistant, and then Tony Morgan as the administrator? And then those two summed up would be the 170 for clarification. Cool.
Subject to the agreement to a contract, is there a motion then
I
to?
have one more question, please.
Okay,
And I appreciate the thumbs up, but I'd like to know from council, the question that was asked, two individuals, one set of money, the thumbs up or thumbs down, what is, and how's it going to be paid? Similar to the gentleman asking in the past, how were the legal fees split up and where were they supposed to go? So I'm asking, how is the fees going to be paid? Does everything come out of the $170,000?
That's my understanding, and it could be done under a single contract. And as stated, the administrator would be responsible for compensating his assistant.
Okay. So the administrator will fix, and I'm just giving a hypothetical. The administrator would be getting $170,000, and then he would distribute what he feels the assistant should get? Or there will be two checks coming out of this fund going, that are set up at the hourly rate that's given?
I assume it's an hourly agreement, and the 170 is a not-to-exceed amount, and so we would be invoiced on a monthly basis, which would show time spent by the administrator, time spent by his assistant, and they would be compensated on that basis.
Okay, thank you very much.
actually, I guess Mr. Morgan is on Zoom with his hand raised. Tony, are you
And
there?
let me finish my question, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
Wait
sorry,
one
I'm
sec.
sorry, Chair, but I would just like to know, Ms. Long made a comment about something about changing, and I'd like to know, because I want to make sure Mr. Morgan is going to be the appointed administrator for the PAC, the PAC, but does Mr. Morgan currently sit on the TAC?
He does.
And is there going to be a requirement that he removes himself from the TAC to take the position of the PAC?
No.
That's not going to be a requirement.
No.
I cannot support this based on the judgment and everything that went to the courts requiring a separation of those powers. I'm sorry. I have nothing, I don't know Mr. Morgan, but I wanted to share that.
Tony, are you online there? Maybe not.
Requiring a separation of those powers.
Wait one second, we can't hear you.
I have nothing, I don't know Mr. Morgan, but I wanted to share that.
Tony, are you online there? Oh, we're going to have that echo again, aren't we?
I am online.
Thank you,
I am
Tony.
online and unmuted.
Do you want to, did you want to clarify some of those, the answer to some of those administrative questions that were asked? Wait one second, we can't hear you.
I have nothing, I don't know Mr. Morgan, but I
All
wanted
right.
to share that.
You know what? Kill the audio. That's too annoying, aren't we?
I am online.
Thank you.
I am
Tony.
online and unmuted.
Do you want to, did you want to clarify some of those, the answer to some of those administrative questions that were asked? Wait one second, we can't hear you.
I have nothing, I don't know Mr. Morgan, but I
All
wanted
right.
to share that.
You know what? Kill the audio. That's too annoying, aren't we?
I am online.
Thank you.
I am
Tony.
online and unmuted.
Do you want to, did you want to clarify some of those, the answer to some of those administrative questions that were asked? Wait one second, we can't hear you.
I have nothing, I don't know Mr. Morgan, but I
All
wanted
right.
to share that.
You know what? Kill the audio. That's too annoying, aren't we?
I am online.
Thank you.
I am
All right.
online and
Let
unmuted.
me just move this forward. Any questions or comments from the public with respect to the request to appoint Mr. Morgan as the PAC administrator?
Chair West, Robert Grether, Vice Chair of the PAC. We hope that you'll support the appointment of Mr. Morgan today. He has a lot of credibility and understanding of our county, of the policy issues and how it all relates to Mr. Perello's concerns about serving in both roles on the PAC and TAC. If I may read the paragraph from the judgment, 6.10.3. The PAC shall appoint a PAC administrator. Watermaster must consent to the approval of the appointment of the PAC administrator, which consent shall not be withheld absent a demonstration of cause. During the first 3 water years following the effective date, the PAC administrator shall not be the same individual as the TAC administrator. Following the end of the 2024 water year, Watermaster shall determine, following committee consultation, whether or not the restriction on the possibility of the same individual serving as the PAC administrator and the TAC administrator is necessary and appropriate, and thus whether or not the restriction should continue to apply. It was contemplated during the deliberations of Phase 3 about whether that person could be the same. And in this case, it's whether the administrator can be the same. Chair West's recognition that the role of the PAC is to focus on policy matters and the role of the TAC is to focus on technical issues. Those are wholly distinct, and that technical matters shall be assigned by the Watermaster, not by the PAC. The PAC appreciates our role and limitations and that we are only serving in an advisory position. We see Tony Morgan as a viable candidate to serve in both of those, and that it meets the rules of the judgment in this interim period because he is not serving as the administrator of the TAC. He is merely serving as one of the members of the TAC. So I'm here if you have questions, but I don't think that there's any challenge or issue, nor any conflict, especially recognizing that we know our role is only to be advising.
May I ask, respond? In the letter that we received for the staff report, Mr. Pritchard's signature, he identifies, and that's why, to the credit of the chair, made a point. All these are technical, separate from the PAC leadership. Down here is the PAC. It appears that he's going to be wearing 2 hats. And I just want to make sure that there's no issue with respect to potentially getting all the work and everything that's been done on all the parties involved with this Las Posas to be a problem. And that's why I have a problem with this issue, the gentleman serving on both, being involved with both. I hope you understand my position.
I understand. I mean, I think my sense is that the TAC will be focused on technical issues, and it certainly helps that Tony and a number of members of the PAC have an understanding of groundwater. It helps us be more effective policy advisors. In his role as an administrator, it is to help us affect our work and our advice. It's very difficult as a group of volunteers to not have an administrative support.
Okay.
And if I don't have that sheet in front of me, and if there's specific examples of the work articulated for Tony or for the PAC administrator that sound like they are too technically oriented, or if the term technical has been used, I don't think that that's intended to be confused with hydrogeology and things that are kind of technical in nature, in that nature.
Well, specifically, I'll tell you what, to be fair with you, I'll read every one of the lines. Or if I have somebody else has a. PAC administrator, determine in consultation with the PAC chair, agenda for PAC meetings. Number 2, prepare draft and final PAC recommendation reports. Present recommendation reports to the Watermaster Board during Watermaster meetings. Provide reports to PAC on TAC findings and recommendations. Address technical issues/questions from the PAC. Other duties as assigned by PAC or as defined in Watermaster rules. And those are under the heading technical responsibilities. And under administrative heading, a entirely different section, it says PAC administrative assistant. It identifies what the assistant's job would do. But it did seem that some of these things are on the technical side, and that's why I held the view that I had.
I'm sorry.
And I
for the
respect
word,
your.
Yeah, and I'm sorry we use the word technical. I can understand how that could be misleading, given that we have a technical advisory committee under the judgment as well. I think it's intended only to draw a distinction from responsibilities that are of an administrative assistant nature.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, and I appreciate your clarification. Thank you.
And even one, two, three, four, the fifth one down that says address technical issues and questions, even that I think is, my sense is it's like technical interpretation of the judgment or technical interpretation of rules that flow from the judgment, not hydrogeology technical issues. So sorry for the confusion.
All right. If there's nothing further, is there a motion then subject to the execution of a contract or a contract amendment to approve the appointment of Tony Morgan as the PAC administrator?
I've known Tony for a long time for his work at United and numbers of meetings with him. He's highly qualified to do this. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve his nomination or position as the technical representative.
I second. I use him with the Fillmore Piru GSA. He's fabulous. And his team.
All right, there's a motion and a second and a roll call, please.
Chair West,
Yes.
Director Long,
Yes.
Director Mulhart,
Yes.
Director Perello,
No,
Director Borchert,
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on then to item number 14.
Chair West, board members, Arnie Anselm. Item 14 is about a fiscal year 2022-2023 $1 million loan from surcharges account to the operating account. And this item is really a bit of housekeeping and planning for the FY 24-25 budget. So when the 22-23 budget was adopted, $1 million loan transferred from surcharges to operating to fund the drilling of wells that are partly funded by a DWR grant. Those wells were not drilled last year when we thought we would spend the money, and that's the reason for the loan. DWR was late with the agreements. We are now under contract with the driller. That drilling's underway now. We are spending significant money getting those wells drilled in this fiscal year. So repaying, as was originally planned, that loan in this fiscal year doesn't make sense because we really haven't used that loan to fund the wells yet. So this item is one to formalize that transfer happened through approval of your board, and also to defer the planned repayment of that loan to the next fiscal year of 25-26.
Questions, comments from the board?
Essentially, we're moving an approved budget expense that was not spent and giving it a new approval for a different time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Before we vote, any questions or comments from the public on this item? Hearing none, then we'll need a roll call on this as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
with respect to this and the loan, the plan is to pay it back. There had been some issues in the past with this agency of not getting certain loans paid back. Are there any requirements about an interest rate if it's late, or any penalties if it's late being paid back from the agreement that we're approving? At the fiscal policy committee meetings, various subjects such as that were discussed quite extensively. And I'm wondering if there's any thought to that being added to this item.
Yeah, as a loan, this is an agency loan from basically moving money from one pocket to another.
Correct.
It's all internal to the agency. I believe interest is being applied. It's my understanding. So when it is repaid, but it's not significant amount, but it will be repaid with that interest rate.
And if the rate is not repaid, if the loan is not repaid,
Well, that would be up to your board to
take an
either
action
defer
then.
it further or forgive the loan. Those are all
Okay.
options.
thank you. That's my question. Thank you.
There's a motion and a second and a roll call, please.
Chair Long,
Yes.
Chair West,
Yes.
Director Long.
Yes.
Director Mulhart.
Yes.
Director Perello.
Yes.
Director Borchert.
Yes.
All right, moving then to item number 15, which is a hearing concerning the adoption of Resolution 2024-05, basically extending the GEMS fee. Is there a request to continue the hearing on that resolution to the meeting on the 26th?
6?
25th, isn't it?
5th? 25th, you're right, 25th.
Yes, and this is a noticed public hearing, and so in order to avoid republishing notice, we'll need a motion to continue the item to the meeting on September 25.
Did we open up the public comment hearing yet?
I don't think we did.
Okay, well, having called the item, I guess, is there any presentation with respect to this item at this time?
No.
Okay. Any questions or comments? We'll open the public hearing now and invite people to address the proposed resolution. Seeing no movement and hearing no voices, is there a motion then to continue this hearing to the meeting on September 25th?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, hearing none, it'll be continued to the 25th. With that, that's the last item noticed on the agenda. We're going to recess this meeting once again and return to closed session. Thanks very much. You lonely few out there. So- It may be,
Report out
there
of
may be.
closed session. Yes.
4:23, we are returned from closed session with a report.
Yes, thank you, Chair. With regard to item 8 on the closed session agenda, the board in closed session voted unanimously to authorize special counsel to file an amicus support at the request of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority in the ongoing adjudication of that basin, and that's Orange County Superior Court case number 30202101187275, the case title of Mojave Pistachios LLC versus Indian Wells Valley Water District.
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.